This is the Yanks Go Yard podcast with Adam Weinrib and Thomas Carannante.
Welcome to the Yanks Go Yard podcast. I'm Adam Weinrib alongside Thomas Carannante. Aaron Judge had himself a weekend, huh? Juan Soto had himself a weekend, huh? The New York Yankees win a series against the Colorado Rockies. They remain allergic to winning on milestone celebration games. Saturday was deeply embarrassing, but you know what? Got to take the series. Got to keep the foot on the gas pedal. Sweep would have been great. Losing the series would have been unacceptable. They were hanging in a 4-3 game in the rubber game of this series late into it. It was a little bit dicey. Who trusted the bullpen to protect a one-run lead against Colorado for 4 innings? Not me. Not me. Thought we might have a different podcast today. Every major league team, no matter how bad their record is, has talent. The Rockies were fighting back on offense. The Rockies probably would have found a way to claw back and score a 4th run if the Yankees hadn't exploded with an additional 6, putting the game away and allowing us to talk about some fun stuff today instead. Again, not a series that's going to necessarily change your playoff predictions, but there was some good stuff. There were some steps forward. Let us never forget what we're watching from Aaron Judge. Let us never forget what we're watching from Juan Soto. And I'm glad Giancarlo Stanton got to join that party because his season deserves mention and the work that he's done after coming back from that midsummer injury, which he usually isn't able to recover from quite so quickly. Again, the home run against Cleveland the other day, the home run against Colorado on Sunday. Are you not entertained? Some of the most unorthodox home runs you'll ever see. We'll talk about the roster shuffle on Sunday that was bound to happen, but happened a little early. The Juan Soto chants, the pressure on Brian Cashman, the team's inability to win in front of the 2009 World Series champions, which again, deeply annoying, and a little bit of progress from one of the most maligned Yankees of the year. All that, and again, Aaron Judge, who is going to be cutting into your college football broadcasts yet again, I would suspect. Thank you for joining us on the podcast. Joining me as always, Thomas Carannante. We are live 2 o'clock Eastern every Monday, every Thursday, and we're live right here, right now, ahead of a series against the Nationals. Look, Thomas, I mean, we plenty to complain about. There's always plenty to complain about. But if you thought, the Rockies are going to take it to the Yankees this weekend, they got a guy with a 2 ERA we've never seen before going on Saturday, and they've got lefties, experienced lefties, and Kyle Freeland on Friday and Austin Gomber on Sunday. Gomber actually having a good season. This team doesn't hit lefties. I mean, there was a lot to prepare to complain about, but then we didn't really have to complain about it because they won a nice tidy 3-0 game and a 10-3 game full of unforgettable moments on Sunday. So fine. At this point in the season, fine.
Yeah, they did what they had to do in probably the most baseline sort of way. I'm not unhappy. I'm not going to be sitting here pumping my fists over a series win against the Colorado Rockies. My eyes are on October. I am concerned about this team's ability to score early and pile on. I am concerned about this team's ability to hit left-handed pitching. I am concerned with the lineup configuration. Who's the leadoff hitter? I understand Gleyber Torres has been there, and he's been doing okay, but are we going to trust him against the best pitching staffs in the league when the pressure's on? Historically, we haven't over the last 4 years, so why are we going to start now? Marcus Stroman screwed me in fantasy baseball. I had to take the win for the Yankees, though, so I couldn't have been that disappointed. Either way, look, you got a 2-game division lead right now over the Orioles, right? 2 games. They lost last night. So there is beginning to it feels like there's a bit of a turning of the tides if they can get a few games ahead. Orioles in bad shape right now. Offense looks very inconsistent. Their trade deadline acquisitions have been like a million times worse than the Yankees, letting Brian Cashman off the hook in unprecedented fashion. So yeah, I think there's a good amount here that we can parse through in terms of positive developments. Obviously, I was talking to Pete. I was at a bar yesterday watching the game at the beach, and was just talking about how obviously it was a close game, 4-3 at that point. And it's like, why is this happening? I know every game can't be a blowout. Thankfully, the Yankees ended up making this a blowout, but I want a season where we can appreciate more Aaron Judge. And 2022, I think Yankees fans as a whole very much appreciated that. And there was a lot of spotlight on it because of what he was accomplishing, but it also coincided with a really bad August that nearly resulted in a 15.5 game blown lead in the division.
Mm-hmm.
And then it went away with a whimper when they got swept in the ALCS in the manner in which they did. And now I understand things are largely good. The Yankees have the best record in the AL. They do lead the division. They are among the World Series favorites, but we've been watching this team for a while. We know what holds them back in October. We know what holds them back against elite opponents. And I think that there is legitimate concern for those problems still existing. Nonetheless, we're here to talk about the weekend and what's to come. We'll discuss bigger picture stuff, but for now, they got the job done against the Rockies. I would have liked Saturday to have been a victory because you had all those cool guys, cool former Yankees in town talking about what it's like to win a championship, talking about Jorge Posada legitimately said this team needs more attitude. He said it in a very nice way. He said, look, it's a tough thing to do to win a championship, and you need a lot of grit, and you need that edge for a full 162 games plus the playoffs, and it's a hard thing to harness. I think this team is capable of it, but I think right now they need a little bit more of it. Derek Jeter talking about accepting the unrealistic expectations that come with being in New York. Knowing that every season they don't win a championship is a failure, and you kind of have to live with that reality. Look, I think if some players came to terms with that and weren't maybe as hard on themselves, or maybe, I don't know. I don't know if the players think this, but I know a lot of rival fans are like, oh, you guys going every season with World Series or bust expectations? What are you, fucking stupid? Like, that's idiotic. And yeah, you know what? It kind of is, but when you have a payroll the Yankees have, when you have the star power the Yankees have, like there are, look, not winning a World Series every year, but we're in the midst of a drought right now with no World Series appearance since 2009.
There's no ducking it at this point. Yeah. Your whole last World Series roster was at Old Timers Day over the weekend.
Yeah.
So like, it doesn't even take a real, you don't have to be a real roast artist to come up with the roast here. Like, you don't have to be like, well, it's been 8 years for the Yankees. Embarrassing, sad. What's happened to my proud franchise? No, it's been 15, and they all went to the celebration of elderly people this weekend. So it's really not hard to draw the line.
It's not, no. And look, we have Aaron Judge on this team. Aaron Judge is absolutely on fire. I think he's going to break 62. That's what I think. Mm-hmm. He's ahead of pace than he was that year. He is seeing a beach ball every time he's at the plate this time around. He's been a steady, like, guiding light of an offensive force. Like, again, don't know what would happen if him or Juan Soto went like absolutely cold over this stretch of games. I know they're still clawing back to getting to 500 over their last 60-ish games. And it's looking better. You take 2 out of 3 from the Guardians and then 2 out of 3 from the Rockies. But yeah, we're witnessing another historic season, and I want it to be viewed more favorably. I don't think that's a lot to ask for.
No, it's really not. And he is going to get dogged in the playoffs if he does not perform
of course.
The same way that he did in 2022. And guess who understood that, by the way? Aaron Judge. Like, outsiders were the ones who were like, how could you boo this man after what he did during the regular season? And it's like, look, it didn't spread to the offseason. It wasn't like fans were like, I mean, look, some were, but nobody was like, I've seen all I need to see. Don't re-sign Aaron Judge. Move the money around elsewhere. Those are all my favorite takes. Like, you know what you could get with Aaron Judge's money? Yeah, 3 people who are worse than Aaron Judge. Next, move on. You need him. You should be spending around him. You should be continuing to add to the payroll. He shouldn't prevent you from reinforcing the rest of the roster. But I'll take Aaron Judge over being like, I could actually just spend $10 million on Alex Verdugo instead. Or I could drink glue, warm glue. Like, it's really not easy to replace Aaron Judge. And most rational people after the postseason concluded came to the same conclusion. Like, well, it would have been nice if that were better. I hate being mocked for Aaron Judge struggling in the postseason. Hopefully it will be better next year when he's back on this team. Very few people were like, that's it for me. Forget the regular season. Not a postseason player. I mean, he's got a wide collection of postseason home runs, right? He's come through in the playoffs. It's not like he's never done damage in the playoffs. But that particular year, maybe he was worn down. Maybe it's just the Astros. who always seemed to get him, but he was awful against the Guardians too, outside of the big home run on the road in game 4. He hit one large home run in that series, and that's fantastic, but otherwise he was like 2 for 18 with a whole bunch of strikeouts. Yeah. It wasn't good. But wild card game in 17, wild card game home run against the A's in 18. Like he's got stamps. He's put stamps on this thing. Unfortunately, right now his playoff legacy is holding the boombox at Fenway Park and that 22 postseason when he got booed. But he knew Yankee fans were booing the moment. They were booing the frustration. They were releasing the anger they had at getting dog walked by an Astros team once again. This was supposed to be the year, and then it was a collapse, and then they steered out of it, and we'll see what happens. Chance to get revenge. Not only do they not get revenge, but they don't come anywhere close. So he needs a World Series, absolutely. And America needs to see him in the World Series.
Yeah.
And America needs a Yankees team to root against in the World Series because I want to get back to that era. If you're going to be the Yankees, if you're going to have this massive payroll, if you're going to have these massive expectations, get to the spotlight. Like, don't be the Cowboys. They're not there yet. 2009 World Series, the flags fly.
Close. Forever. Another 5 years and they're the Cowboys.
Flags fly forever. And 2009 was great. And we saw all those guys this weekend. It was great to catch up with AJ Burnett. And the Yankees put out an incredible montage on Twitter. Nick Tyrell edited like this ridiculous 10-minute montage of that whole season. And then it was like, wow, they really used to just exert their dominance on people, didn't they? And like that whole season, they were pretty much doing everything asked of them from May on, except for they started 0-8 against the Red Sox. And they were like, all right, well, that doesn't matter to us at all. Let's have some of the most iconic regular season wins over the Red Sox in franchise history down the back stretch of that season.
Yeah.
The Damon Teixeira 2 back-to-back homers in the 8th, that A-Rod 15th inning home run. Like, who remembers the first half of the 2009 season at this point? Because they answered every question and every bell that rang down the stretch right through the postseason. There was a moment, there are several moments when it almost got away from them.
Yeah.
Game 2 against Minnesota, when you're down 3-1 in the 9th and you're thinking, okay, so this extremely special season, we're just going to go to Minnesota tied 1-1 with the ALDS up for grabs. No. Alex Rodriguez, Mark Teixeira, David Robertson. Same deal in the CS, trailing late in game 2. A-Rod again, Jerry Hairston Jr., Melky, good base running. Game 1 of the World Series, Cliff Lee just shuts him down. You're down 1-0 at home. Here you go, AJ Burnett. Here's the ball. You've been our worst starting pitcher through the first 2 rounds, but most important start of your life, and he delivered. It was a great reminder that every time, there's a swing in the middle of the season and fans say it's over or we're so back, like it's never over. The team still has agency to collect themselves and make it a season worth watching. And credit to the Yankees when we basically said, I certainly said on the show last week after the awful loss to the Guardians, like the opener of that series, we didn't have a podcast time to write after it, but definitely tweeted it. Like, all right, there's really no reason to believe in this team right now. And if you want to get me back, if you want to get me invested again, if you want to make me feel like you can exert your pressure on the opponent instead of letting the opponent dictate, go win tomorrow, go win the next 2, beat the Guardians in this series and show me you forgot about it. And they did exactly that. Go take a series from the Rockies when you've been struggling at home and all of these games are sort of less than ideal. You got Rodon on Friday night. He's brilliant again. And shout out to Carlos Rodon he's been off a couple times. He was off against Detroit last week. Detroit now 1 game under 500. Good for them.
Yeah.
He's not going to be great every time out, but we just need to avoid the roller coaster. We need to avoid the early holes. And I'm going to give look, in minimal credit, same credit as, people are going to throw it back in our faces when we say good job beating the Rockies 2 out of 3 and good job beating Austin Gomber. That proves you can beat lefty starters or whatever. But Rodon against a bad team, he usually just shows up and shoves. Like, I was pretty much not anxious about a moment of that Carlos Rodon start. It was just like the Rockies they got some boppers, right? Nolan Jones, Brenton Doyle, Tovar having a good year. Ryan McMahon, an all-star, would love to have him. Like, they got some guys. You can let it get out of hand quickly if you struggle. But he said, no nonsense.
The top 25 fantasy player. I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
Had no idea.
Yeah, good ball players. Even the worst teams have good ball players these days. Yeah. That's the thing. There are no teams you can just run over anymore. It's because the bullpens are so much better. I had this thought, oddly enough, like 10 minutes yesterday before the Yankees just bashed on the Rockies bullpen. But bad teams used to just bring in like a slop throwing 85-mile-an-hour guy in the 6th inning. So you get the starter out, it would be 5-3, and then in 5 seconds, it would be 12-3, and you'd be like, all right, well, that's that. Great. Job done. And now even the Rockies have guys coming in throwing 98. So there's really you got to hope one of those guys has a bad control day or whatever. Because, solid arms, everybody has access to the same training methods now. People get it. But low bar to clear for Rodon, but he always shows up against these teams. Huge, memorable rally, and Aaron Judge with a monster Sunday, and Soto and Stanton and Gleyber Torres, even, who we'll talk about later. Good job sandwiched around. They lose the one game, and it's Will Warren, who shouldn't be in this rotation in the first place and won't be in this rotation in a couple of weeks. So depressing that was Old Timers Day. It always seems to be Old Timers Day or Jeter Day or some momentous day when they just have a bad pitching probable and still got a chance to win, but the offense no shows. Like, it's a stinky game, but you win the series. That's what really matters for now. And what really truly matters, though, is what the Bleacher Creatures did to Juan Soto yesterday and how Soto responded.
Please pay Soto. Can we, or please stay Soto?
Please stay Soto. Please stay Soto. Please pay Soto. Re-sign Soto. People thought it was for a while. I mean, whatever it was, sentiment's the same.
Yeah. His comments after the game were funny. He was asked about the chat, and he said, you got to talk to Cashman. Hope not. Hope that's a Hal thing. Mm-hmm. Really do. I hope it's just Hal saying, hey, what do we need to get done here? Much like he did with Aaron Judge. Hopefully he's not in fucking Italy this time.
Yeah.
Probably got to hang out close to headquarters when you're negotiating with top 3 free agent of the last, 30 years?
Ever.
Ever?
Aaron Boone was talking the other day about how many Hall of Famers are on this team, and he said probably 4 of the trajectories fit, and that would be Judge, Soto, Cole, and Stanton. And I would say, yeah, probably 4 is your upper maximum there. Yeah. But Soto, it's easy to call him a future Hall of Famer at this point because we've really seen very few people do what he's done. Undeniably, he is still 25. His career could take a lot of directions, but I would say if you're going to bet on one free agent, the 25-year-old with elite plate discipline and patience and absurd power who just hit a career high in home runs, and it's August 26th, is probably the one to bet on. Yeah.
Yeah, really I was talking about the roster yesterday too. Like it's just a little bit concerning how top heavy it is. I know there's going to be departures after this year. Many things are going to be fixed, but Soto remains number 1 priority. Even if you can keep it top heavy as it is now and you can cycle in new pieces around them. I know that we thought that was happening with Alex Verdugo this year, with DJ LeMahieu coming back from the foot injury, with Gleyber Torres motivated, or so we thought, in a contract season. Either way, there's going to have to be some more meaningful changes beyond that. The Yankees will have yet another chance to do it, but I don't know if the alternative is possible, letting Soto go and also filling out those ancillary pieces, because the work that the Yankees have done to fill the ancillary pieces it just hasn't been sufficient for what this team's needed. Again, if they had 3 league average hitters beyond Soto, Judge, and Stanton, and assuming Austin Wells was playing every day, this team would be they would at least feel like they were unstoppable. So I'm looking at Soto. It very much does feel like this is where he wants to be. We talked last week about the Mets being a possibility. We saw over the weekend or late last week, the Giants popped in as a rumored destination via, I think it was MLB insider Mark Feinsand.
MLB insider Farhan Zaidi.
Yeah. I don't think he's going to the Giants. I mean, as much as they might be able to offer the most money because they have kind of stood pat or gotten beaten on all these other free agents. Soto, again, smart guy, knows the spotlight. Don't think he wants to play second fiddle to the Dodgers, potentially third fiddle to the Padres, and be in a big market that doesn't get the attention that it should.
You're not giving, fourth fiddle, freaking fourth fiddle. The Snakes are,
I guess, yeah,
the most fun team in baseball.
Yeah. So all signs are pointing to this is the Yankees' battle to lose. They have to offer something commensurate with the other contracts that are being thrown at Soto out there. This situation will at least be a little bit easier because Soto's already testing free agency and there's going to be no avoiding that. So they will actually have, it's not going to be one of those things, it was like Giants and Saquon where it was like, hey, you know what? Go out there and see what you got and then come back to me. So there's not going to be any feelings of like, oh, so you don't want me? I'm like literally a top 3 player and you don't want me on your team.
Mm-hmm.
There's just going to be a natural free agency progression here and it'll just be up to the Yankees to respond. And their job is to respond as the richest franchise in the sport. So again, keep chanting because the front office needs to know, ownership needs to know. I don't know if I'm crazy, but I do feel like they're aligned on this, right? I don't think what did we talk about in the offseason when people are like, oh, you think Aaron Judge is going to be able to stomach Juan Soto getting paid more than him? And it's like, yeah. I mean, Judge is 32 years old. Soto's 25. It's not like they're comparable on the offensive side of the ball. I know Judge is having an otherworldly season, but Soto offers consistency and that protection that Judge needs in the lineup also with everybody around him who's kind of floundering. I don't think this is going to be an issue. They seem to love playing with each other. We've seen the beat writers tell us how, they go back and forth off of one another. They're always talking shop. They're trying to figure out how to get better. They're, blowing smoke up each other's rear ends, which is kind of cool. They both each think the other is the best, it's cute. If there was a cute development in baseball where I could confidently say that's cute, it's whatever Aaron Judge and Juan Soto are doing. So, yeah, I think this is what needs to happen. I don't know. We'll look at other moves, but right now, Judge and Soto are here. We need a few of these other guys to step up. Again, very nice to have 2 series wins in a row. Guardians not falling apart, but having a very tough stretch. You got to take care of that series. Rockies really bad at home. You got to take care of that series. They are 12-9 this month. Fine. Should be better, right? Should be better. Not here complaining, but we're given the honest assessment. This is the softest part of their schedule. I would say that they are a little bit lucky that the Orioles have run into trouble when you combine their struggles with a difficult schedule. I watched that game last night too. Watched a lot of baseball yesterday. Astros are emerging as the team to beat. It's just because the Yankees the Yankees don't have a stake on that claim. They have not been the team to beat in the playoffs in 15 years. Maybe a little bit sooner. What? 2010, right?
1 year sooner. I think they entered. 2019 was their best chance since 2000. You put
They had no consistent track record at that point to be considered, oh, this is the team to beat. It's like the Astros were there since 2016 doing damage, and the Yankees have not been there since 2010 doing damage.
You put on your retrospective glasses, and obviously the 2017 team had a great chance to get to the World Series, but entering that postseason, it was a 91-win team in the wild card, and Cleveland had won 102 games and had a 20-game winning streak in the middle. Like, that was Cleveland's American League to lose, and then we went out and took it from them. But certainly not entering the postseason. You're like, oh, yeah, these Yankees are a shoo-in, obviously. You're like, we're hoping to get out of the wild card game. Then we'll see what happens. Let's have ourselves a postseason. And then 2018 and 19, we'll take steps forward. The Red Sox stole the first one from us. Injuries stole the second one, and then the pandemic happened, and they've never been the same. But it's been an extremely long time since they went into the postseason as a favorite. I would say 2019, I expected big things. I wanted vengeance on the Astros, and I was upset when I didn't really receive it. And obviously that ended as painfully as any postseason has ended for this team during our lifetime. But they will not enter this postseason. It depends on who you ask. I know I'm getting into a little of the little old me shit that I hate when Red Sox fans do. But I didn't expect to have a chance at this division once they relinquished it. Like, did you think that the big bad Orioles, when the Yankees were falling apart in June and July and early August and getting swept in the Subway Series and getting whomped by the Braves and, losing series to pretty much every valued competitor in the entire summer, did you think that we would not only be in the mix for the division, but up 2 games in the loss column on Monday, August 26th? I certainly did not, because that would have entailed not just the Yankees righting the ship sooner than they have. They haven't even righted the ship to the degree that I would have said they would have had to in order to be there. The Orioles have just been so blah that they've allowed us to stick around, and not just stick around, but stick around above them in the standings. They have to go catch us again. And Friday night, Saturday, the comeback wins over Houston. You're like, all right, well, they're going to assert their dominance a little bit now. We slipped up on Saturday. All sorts of tweets before the Rockies series that were like, the O's have the Astros and Dodgers, while the Yankees have the Rockies and Nats. How do they screw this chance to extend the division lead up? And it was like, not that hard. Just takes the Orioles winning a couple games and us looking terrible behind Will Warren, and looky there, it happened. But 2 up entering the new week. Bunch of weird baseball ahead of the Yankees. Nats, Cardinals, at Rangers, at Cubs. Still a couple weeks where the pressure isn't going to easily manifest, where it's just going to be like odd matchup right now. 3 lefties that the Nats are throwing us, and they're calling up Dylan Cruz to make his MLB debut today, because of course they are. They called him up on Friday and then said, don't join us until the Yankees series. Okay, Chief, good stuff. But 2 weeks of odd matchups at a time when we're entering the stretch run. And so the goal remains the same. Beat whoever is on your schedule. No hype, no mystique, no Red Sox just yet. Now, after these 2 weeks, we might dictate the final wildcard spot all by ourselves. We've got the Royals and the Red Sox coming to Yankee Stadium for 3 and then 4. So we're going to play an outsized role in the postseason race, no matter how close we are, no matter how much we're teetering on the edge of securing a playoff spot or whatnot. But the next 2 weeks before then, just got to stay motivated, look at the team immediately in front of you, and just say, win tonight's game. And if you don't win that night's game, you've got enough of a cushion now and a small little cushion in the division, and hopefully the Dodgers play up to par against the Orioles. Just win that night's game. Go into that game, win the baseball game. If James Wood and Dylan Cruz go off tonight and you happen to lose, not the end of the world. Regroup and win tomorrow. Patrick Corbin. Just take every game as got to win this. If we don't, got to win tomorrow, got to win the series. And Thursday off day should be a nice chance to regroup before coming back home after this 3-game road trip. I don't know what that's all about.
Neither do I. Yeah, should we? Well, we already touched upon it. Look, like, they're winning-ish, kind of, out of whatever they were doing in the beginning of the month. That Tiger series, I know, was only a week ago, and it left a bad taste in everybody's mouth. But I think the point still stands. Like, another October worry is failing to win these marquee games. You lose Sunday Night Baseball, the Little League Classic. You lose the Old Timers Day reunion, which the Yankees hadn't had since 2019, right? That was the 2019 was the last time they had any Old Timers ceremony.
Yeah, the game went away in the pandemic and never came back. CC, was it CC who said, like, why aren't we playing? We should play.
Yeah.
The rumor has been that the Old Timers don't want to play now. And, like, look, obviously Goose Gossage doesn't want to play, but who else is saying that? Like, the Old Timers are now look, it's depressing, but the Old Timers from when we were kids have passed away. Yeah. The old timers from the 70s still show up, a couple of them every year, but most of the old timers are from the 90s and they're 55 or younger, and they probably mostly want to play a baseball game. So maybe someday.
Little baseball game just for fun. Look, not going to cry about winning a series, but also concerned that a lot of the times this team makes the moment bigger than them. They can't handle whenever there's something that's filled with hoopla or has a lot of pomp and circumstance surrounding it. You go back to, what we like to complain about the most is every primetime game against the Red Sox. I would love to have a stats person just go back since 2016 and look at all of the primetime games against the Red Sox and do the splicing and tell me what the Yankees record is, because I guarantee you it is well below 500. They lost Derek Jeter Day last year, and that was the Aaron Hicks situation, correct?
They
That's
lost. They
John Sterling.
certainly, yeah, they lost John Sterling Day this year. They lost the Derek Jeter honoree game in 2022, and Aaron Hicks stared at a fair ball and walked around.
That was 2 years ago. Sorry.
When Jeter went in Monument Park, they got bashed by the Astros. Alex Bregman got them.
Yep.
Like it's more often than not these days. They just get beaten up on, whether it's a home game meant to honor one of your own, whether it's the National State home opener this year stands out too. A game when Stroman is fine, but things fall apart in the late innings. They don't hit at all. And you're like, well, that was a bunch of great road trip. Come on home, look like shit. Cool. Where are the vibes for this season? They've mostly been up, but in a lot of these showcase games, they've certainly been down. The Red Sox setting the stolen base record, Fenway Park on Sunday Night Baseball. All the Subway Series games. If you get the Yankees on ESPN, Fox Saturday, they seem to do okay. But if you get the Yankees on ESPN, more often than not, the ending will be catastrophic. So ESPN holds the keys, it would seem, and it approximates a playoff atmosphere to some degree. And time after time, the vast majority of these Sunday Night Baseball at Fenway, and the last time the Yankees went to Fenway was actually pretty good. They won that game pretty handily. Yeah. Luis Heel getting outmatched by Cutter Crawford. That was the Yankee Stadium Sunday Night Special this year. Cutter Crawford, I believe, got through 7 shutout innings on 24 pitches or something. And think of the worst games you've seen in the last 5 years. They probably came in a showcase. Field of Dreams.
Field of Dreams, yeah.
Will Warren hasn't been throwing most of these, to be fair. But
all I want to know is, and look, I know realigning the rotation is difficult, but Old Timers Day is on the calendar for a long time. Why is there no maneuvering Will Warren off that? And it's also like, don't forget about the pressure that puts on him. He's been struggling. He's having a tough go of it. We don't know if he's going to be a big league contributor. You have a small cameo at the MLB level. That doesn't usually determine your fate, but why are you going to throw the kid in a high leverage situation where you have Derek Jeter, Jorge Posada, A-Rod, all these other guys talking pregame? It just adds more and more stress to the moment, and somebody who's more equipped to handle that should be starting the game. That's it. And you have all the fans there. They're happy to see the reunion of the 2009 team. They're happy to see the return of Old Timers Day, and then you lose 9-2.
It was so bad it sobered up Johnny Damon.
Yeah. What is wrong with that guy?
I don't know. Enjoy the Old Timers days while you still can.
God. Okay. But yeah, it's a theme that it warrants concern. That's all I'm saying, because we've seen a lot of playoff failures. We've seen a lot of falling apart in the big moment, and this lines up with it. Although, we do have to. You were talking about Giancarlo Stanton at the top of the episode. He has been hopefully turning a corner, as a whole. His Yankees tenure has been tough to kind of evaluate, right? There's extreme highs and there's extreme lows, but this year, can't really complain with the contribution. I know he missed 5 weeks, but that's standard at this point. Just ask Brian Cashman. He'll tell everything to the media to piss off Giancarlo Stanton's agent. But Stanton with runners in scoring position this year, 284, 938 OPS. Pretty incredible. His home runs remain majestic, some of the best that you will ever see in your entire life. Somehow outdoes Aaron Judge, and Aaron Judge is absolutely incredible. Cannot overlook the fact that he's OPSing above 800, 801, fairly considerable. I know it's not what you would expect out of an MVP caliber candidate such as Stanton, but every Yankees fan should have just been smart enough to know what his limitations are and what we're going to get out of him. And if we're getting a power threat who's going to come through in big moments and who's still going to slug his way to the top, and who's going to be somewhat clutch, I think that's a win. If you look at the contract, it's never going to be a win for you. If you look at the trade and the fact that it held the Yankees back from other free agent acquisitions, it's never going to be enough for you. But you got to come to terms with what the reality is. The reality is that Giancarlo Stanton is probably a Hall of Famer when all is said and done. He needs 75 more home runs to get to 500. And if he is back for the remainder of this season and in the playoffs, I will feel a lot better about this team. I will feel like almost as ironclad as I possibly could over the last 5 years with this team heading into the playoffs.
Yeah. Somebody tweeted yesterday about how the top 6 in the Yankees lineup is secure with like Stanton's recent numbers, etc. It almost left out Austin Wells's recent numbers, which recent last 2+ months.
Best OPS as a catcher since April.
Yeah, they're pulling it together. I mean, I still when people say like, "Oh, this could be the best offense in baseball," I think it was MLB Network last night. They're like, "This would be the best offense in baseball if Stan's hitting." I don't know. I mean, I've seen too many bases loaded 1 out failures to be like, yes, absolutely. Nobody does it better because there's just no way. But yeah, if Stan's going to hit this way, which he usually takes longer to get back into rhythm coming back from injury than he did this year. And he's been good with runners in scoring position all year. And he hit, oh boy, last year, even at his worst, he hit 24 homers in 101 games. This year he's at 23 in 88. That pace is obviously better, but it's not like he could go 13 games without a homer. You never know. But he was not a valuable player beyond the home runs last season at all. 695 OPS, 87 OPS plus. Not just, Stanton as a slightly above average bat is one thing. Stanton as a below average bat is another entirely. Yeah. Those who don't want to remember his Yankees career fondly will ignore the fact that he had a 130 OPS plus in his first full season here, followed by a 136 mark in 2021. He was legitimately great in both of those seasons. 2019, he missed almost the whole year. We were robbed. 2020, he missed half of the year that everybody missed 100 games in. So his numbers are below where they should be. Quite frankly, he should already be flirting with the 500 home run club. He should be there by next year, which would get him into the Hall of Fame pretty much automatically. And I think it's very funny because for a while, the 500 home run club was so devalued because it was full of steroid guys and it stopped being an automatic Hall of Fame signifier. But it's an automatic Hall of Fame signifier if you do it clean.
Yeah.
David Ortiz tested positive for steroids and it got him in, but you don't cross the threshold and immediately earn induction in the Hall of Fame. Sure. A-Rod, not in. McGuire, Sosa, Bonds, Rafael Palmeiro, Gary Sheffield. Plenty of people have 500 home runs and are not in the Hall of Fame. But if you hit that mark without a positive PED test, automatic. Stanton is getting in at 500 home runs. I think Stanton should get in at 490, 480, 470. It just gets dicer for the general public. I would be surprised if somebody who captured our attention as much as Stanton did in Miami, in Yankees pinstripes for the rest of his career. He's probably going to finish his career in pinstripes, or at least his prime in pinstripes. He's under control through 2027 with a 2028 team option. So 3 years plus the rest of this season. You can't bank on him staying healthy, but hopefully he can average 120 games during the next couple of campaigns. 75 short of 500 right now. Would love to see him pile up a couple more by the end of this season to get even closer. But I would say 470. We're not talking about Dave Kingman here. We're not talking about a power-only guy who set the strikeout record and is basically toiled for some unimpressive teams. Giancarlo Stanton wasn't on the 1982 Mets, right? Giancarlo Stanton was in the postseason every year with the Yankees. MVP winner in Miami. When he was in Miami, there was nobody like him. Comes to New York and has to share the stage with Aaron Judge and largely held himself to a high standard and acquitted himself very well. There were certainly moments when he struck out swinging at pitches in the other batter's box that made you tear your hair out. But if he wins one World Series in the Bronx, he'll be remembered like Reggie Jackson.
Yep.
Simple as that. I mean, the World Series changes everything. AJ Burnett, beloved, even though he was average in 2009, bad in the playoffs, great in the World Series, average in 2010, I guess. Terrible in 2011, one of MLB's worst starting pitchers in 2012. Would I still sign that contract again? Absolutely. Yeah. Unequivocally. Wish we had a Roy Halladay to supplement him in the rotation. Sure. But I'd do it again. World Series heroics on a championship team. So Stanton just a ring away from being a guy whose career isn't even questioned. And if he can get that 500 homers, which based on even his output last year in a bad year, he just needs 25 for the next 3 years to get it done. And he's not going to turn 35 till after the season ends.
Yeah.
So I would say closer than ever to doing it. Not secured yet. And if he were to retire today, he's not in. But the path. It doesn't take a lot to envision it now. It's pretty easy to map it all out.
No, I'm happy he's playing consistently. My least favorite Yankee fan discourse is like the anti-Stanton stuff, and obviously we've written about it. I've written plenty about it. We're talking about what fans are talking about, the media is talking about, so it's part of the job. But the vibes are never lower when people are complaining about Giancarlo Stanton. When he's playing bad, it's particularly disheartening. When the fans are harping on one guy, it's disheartening. When we're going down the rabbit hole of what happened or what could have been in 2018, 2019 in terms of free agency, it's really sad. So when Giancarlo Stanton can just be like, look, you look at the numbers now, 245 average, 495 slugging, like nothing spectacular, but it's consistent enough where we don't have to have those discussions. And again, I'd rather all the blame go on someone like Brian Cashman, who decided to do this. And, it's not Giancarlo Stanton's fault necessarily that he's injured. It's not Giancarlo Stanton's fault the Yankees decided to curb their spending. So
think about Judge, Stanton, and Bryce Harper.
Be fucking cool.
I mean, I'd rather you put them in, one in each of my hands, and I would rather have Bryce Harper on his current contract than Giancarlo Stanton. But that doesn't mean trading for an NL MVP, a reigning NL MVP with that skill set and that flair for the dramatic is a bad idea.
No, it was, we liked it at the time. We thought it was cool. It was like, hey, you know what? Buying low because you could take the money off the Marlins' hands. Marlins even gave you some money. So it was like, holy shit, gave up next to nothing, got an MVP caliber candidate to pair with Aaron Judge. Now, let's get more. And then they were like, no, we won't get more.
Yeah, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to get pitching either. We're not going to do any of the things that would be helpful to do.
We're just going to hit 1 million home runs and hope that sustains for the entire year.
And, oh, by the way, JD Martinez is better than Stanton now. It's the cosmic nature of it, too. It's like, guess what? Stanton is the second best DH in the Yankees-Red Sox rivalry. Oops. Oh, cool. Well, that's great. We tried to plan against that, but I guess we're boned.
Yeah. Well, speaking of homers, Gleyber Torres homered yesterday. How about that? How about that? Two little housekeeping things before we go off here. We got some roster stuff, and we just have a general question. Is Gleyber Torres this team's leadoff hitter? I guess. Do I want it to be the case? No. I am pleased that he's found a little bit of a groove. What it's been? 2 weeks? Something like that?
Yeah, you look at the overall numbers in the leadoff spot. Look at the overall numbers in the leadoff spot, and they're still quite bad. And again, one homer in the last month, one homer in his last 23 games, and the OPS at 654. So we're not talking. If you split it by his performance in the leadoff spot this year, it carries a lot of baggage from earlier in the season. So it's hard to know what's legit and what's not. And hey, if the question is, do you trust Gleyber Torres' performance in the leadoff spot paired with Gleyber Torres' performance in the field? No, I don't. I'm going to need to see a lot more. The Yankees, though, luckily have enough of a lead on a playoff spot. We talked angrily about this the other day where they had a sizable lead on a playoff spot, but they could have teetered against the Guardians and over the weekend. It could no longer be sizable, and they could no longer be in experimentation mode. Now it's an 8-game lead in the loss column on a playoff spot. That's fantastic. You can breathe a little bit. If Gleyber Torres has a bad game or 2 or 3, it's no longer the end of the world. Let's see what he's got. And over the last 15 games, he's hitting 281. The OPS is still in the dumps. Last week in the leadoff spot, 7 for 22, 318 with a 464 OBP, 964 OPS, 778 OPS in his last 12 games played over a 14-day span. He's less than ideal. He's not a long-term fit. Caleb Durbin's autograph rookie card comes out in about 2.5 weeks. Might want to get on that. So do I trust him? He's impossible to trust for the postseason. But have I seen enough that I'm not going to get angry when I see him penciled in the leadoff spot anymore, and instead it's sort of a hopeful piece of experimentation? Absolutely. Anybody but Verdugo.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Again, this is a situation where it's like you have to look at the front office and you have to look at Aaron Boone. In my opinion, with the way the lineup was constructed, they overshot their confidence in Anthony Volpe. They thought he was going to be a leadoff hitter. He was not. They overshot their confidence in DJ LeMahieu aging well. He did not. Even with signing DJ after the 2020 season, in your head, you were not envisioning him being the leadoff hitter on a steady capacity 4 years down the line. You knew at that point, back half of the contract was going to be utility bench player, veteran presence, contact first, whatever. So this is more of a Yankees lineup and roster construction issue. In my opinion, Aaron Boone should just be playing a hot hand in the leadoff spot, whether it's Austin Wells at any given point, whether it's Torres if he's playing well. I'm not against Torres being in the leadoff spot. The numbers just have to show me something. I was in favor of Alex Verdugo there earlier in the season, but you have a now 2.5 month stretch of being literally the worst hitter in the league. That person cannot be leading off for you. In terms of the rest, it's just you can't. It's an automatic out. It doesn't set and when you turn the lineup over, there's almost no threat. It's like having 2 number 9 hitters.
I was in favor of Alex Verdugo doing a lot of things earlier in the season, and now I'm not. It's fine. Yeah. I saw it. It's okay. Yeah. It's over.
I would look like I can see we saw Jazz on a hot streak before he got injured. Like they should never be against putting Jazz Chisholm in the leadoff spot. He's fast. He's a threat on the bases. Like if he gets on and gets the green light to steal, what's the harm in that with Juan Soto coming up next? That sounds pretty great to me. Yeah, I don't know. We could talk about some roster stuff here soon too, but yeah, it should be a little bit of a revolving thing, maybe with Jazz, Gleyber, and Austin Wells. They got to figure out a way to get Austin Wells into this lineup more. I don't understand why he's only playing 1 game in this series. It's just, I understand I do understand it because it's the dumbest fucking explanation of all time. Because there's a lefty on the mound, but
you want to get it again? You're going to hear it again if you want to hear it again.
Would love to hear it again, but Jose Trevino goes 0 for 7 against the lefties. So what is it, man? It's just, this is the time to start just bucking the old trends that aren't working. Playing the matchups every single game does not work. Plugging someone into the leadoff spot for the sake of doing it simply does not work.
I just hate playing the matchups. We need to play the matchups against Austin Gomber and Kyle Freeland in August so that when Austin Wells is facing Josh Hader down 3-2 in the ALCS, he's like, what the fuck is this? I wasn't even allowed to face 88-mile-an-hour throwing lefties. Now this guy's throwing 99 on a consecutive save streak, and this is my job? Oh, great. The same thing I'm talking about Paul Skeens not getting shut down for the Pirates. It's good they're managing his innings, but it's good that he's starting September games so that next year they're not facing a Luis Gil situation if they're contending where they're like, unfortunately, we must shut down Paul Skeens because we forgot to pitch him this year. Oh, he's pitching. Austin Wells is going to face top quality lefties at some point in October. Are you going to be pinch hitting for him in the 6th inning when the opposition brings one in? Or are you going to leave your rookie of the year level catcher in the game? I would want to leave him in, so I would rather he get those reps now, especially with a little bit of wiggle room. And if we talk about fine-tuning things, if you believe Gleyber Torres means the Yankees have found a leadoff hitter, more power to you. I would say not quite so much, but I like Jazz Chisholm in the top 6. I like what he brings to this team. I like what Stanton's done since he's come back from injury. Soto Judge, impossible to argue with. Wells, stud for months on end. Jason Dominguez, got that OPS at AAA over 800, 813. Ready to contribute when you are. Ready to bring him up. Could be September 1st, and experimentation mode goes both ways. The Yankees know they don't have to put the foot on the gas pedal on August 26th, so they won't. If they can wait till September 1st, they'll do that. But they could be getting to a point in the next 10 days, 2 weeks, where Anthony Volpe, a 3.5 WAR player who might be a 250 hitting singles hitter at this point in time, might be their worst hitter, which would be great. That would be a great place to be.
It truly would be. But yeah, they have to keep playing the better hitters. Austin Wells has been a legitimate stud for his past 55 games. You're removing a very crucial element of a part of the game that he needs to learn. The best lefty hitters in the game don't sit against. I'm not saying Austin Wells is one of the best lefty hitters in the game, but he emerged very quickly into the rookie of the year race. Aaron Boone is ruining that for him. he needs exposure against lefties if he's going to be this team's everyday catcher next year, right now, year after, whatever it's going to be. And depriving him of that at this moment, just because you got your veteran catcher back from injury who is playing okay, just is not acceptable. If Garrett Cole wanted Jose Trevino to catch for him, whatever it was last week or whatever, great. I really do not think Carlos Rodon and Marcus Stroman are demanding Jose Trevino catch for them. So that can't be the excuse either. So yeah, let's clean that up. It's just a few little things, and we could be looking at a much better picture. In terms of the roster picture, we're a little confused, aren't we? Michael Tonkin DFA'd. That wasn't really confusing. We kind of knew that was going to be happening. He had a pretty bad stretch over his last 3 weeks. But Phil Bickford comes up. Scott Efros just still sitting at AAA. I don't know. What's the deal here?
Well, I do think that there might be a AAA managerial firing in the offing here, because Phil Bickford, the Michael Tonkin DFA, has got like a, what is it, like a 60 RA in his last month and a half of where it's 70 RA over a certain span of time. Yeah. The Grim Reaper was coming from Michael Tonkin. It's sad. And with so many arms to fit in down the stretch, Efros, Hamilton, Birdie, you can't automatically trust that any of those guys will be valuable contributors, but you need to find room for them and add in, let's even say worst case scenario happens and those guys decide not to step up. Ron Marinaccio and Michael Tonkin are roughly equivalent in my eyes in terms of who I'd like to see, who's on the trust tree. So there's still internal solutions. There are 40-man guys. You eventually had to make a move for Tonkin, and it felt likely that it was going to be Efros this week. And then Efros freaking pitched on Saturday. They needed him for Sunday to cover innings specifically, and also into September and into the playoffs. But you're not going to make a bullpen move on Sunday to cover the gap with a guy who isn't going to pitch back-to-back. So the AAA manager, I'm not sure if the Yankees forgot to relay to him that, hey, by the way, watch how the big league game is going. And when you do watch how the big league game is going, note that Will Warren, your boy, exited in 3 frames and will be rejoining you soon and helped us not at all. And maybe don't put Efros in and put his scoreless streak in jeopardy. Of course, Efros not only pitches, but he allows a run to blemish that. And the Yankees had to go ahead and call up Phil Bickford, who hopefully didn't appear yesterday, hopefully won't appear tomorrow, but was fresher. I'd like to see Efros later this week, and I'd like to see Bickford sent back down. But yeah, Tonkin, bummer that the bell tolled, and also just crazy that Tim Meza is still on this roster while Michael Tonkin is not. The numbers dictate Tonkin had to go, and I'm not going to get up in a soapbox and say we should keep him forever because of 1 extra inning save against the Phillies in mid-July. But contribution undoubtedly contributed to this team. You want to talk about a guy who will be welcomed back at Old Timers Day if this team has a 15th anniversary someday? Michael Tonkin for sure. But odd circumstances, and I think we can blame whoever decided to throw the arm up for the righty in the AAA bullpen over the weekend, because you cost Scott Efros a couple of days of big league action.
Yeah. You know what's nuts? Jonathan Loaizaga's injury is we haven't really talked about it at all because it was so long ago, but it's fucking murdering this team.
Yep.
And I understand. Look, I was the number one guy saying you can't factor this dude into your bullpen at any given year. He had 1 healthy season. Every other time it was derailed by injury or he failed to find some sort of consistency. But with the plan that they had with Loaizaga, and with the troubles they have filling out the latter innings at this point, and forget about the bullpen as a whole, down to the last guy, and all the way up to Clay Holmes at closer, there needs to be adjustments, refinements, different role settings, whatever you want to call it. But Loaizaga could have been a mix and match. He could have been the guy coming in to save a starter from an early blow up or maybe an early injury to go 2-ish innings. He could have been the guy saving a game in the 10th, and the Yankees don't have that. And the trade deadline really didn't solve any of those problems. I know, initially we viewed Mark Leiter Jr. as that possibility. It's okay, this guy could kind of be used as a Swiss Army knife. I wouldn't say as a multi-inning option, but You need him in the 6th? Great, bring him in. Tight game, best portion of the lineup. You want to get out of it? Reliable guy. Coming in, save situation, he's got experience. Coming in after to playing extras, high leverage experience. He's got it. Now he's pitching the 4th inning of a fucking 6-1 blowout on Saturday. Mm-hmm. So you combine that with the Enyel De Los Santos trade and all these other injuries, which I understand are not fully the Yankees' fault. But again, it's a trend that keeps happening every single year. You got yourselves a problem. That said, need Scott Efros back here to see what he can do for you. Final month of the season, heading into the playoffs. The guy hasn't pitched in 2 seasons. Probably good to have him up here as soon as possible, right? We know Cody Poteet and Ian Hamilton are on the mend. Don't know when they're coming back. Don't know how effective they will be. Don't know what roster moves are going to spur from that. Lou Trevino started a rehab assignment too. Mm-hmm. Don't know what's happening there, but yeah, it could be a little bit of a roster reckoning. And we're going to be all over that. But for now, it's just Michael Tonkin DFA'd, Phil Bickford here for the moment, and we're going to roll with it.
Yep, Phil Bickford here for a couple of damn days. And meanwhile, Caleb Ferguson on a scoreless streak in Houston, and Dennis Santana heating up and increasingly higher leverage in Pittsburgh. Complain about it all you want. We certainly will. The annoying thing is, guess what? Neither of those guys were fixing the Yankees bullpen's biggest problem.
Yeah.
Clay Holmes in the back end. So all the Yankees need to do to make you forget about that immediately is for Hamilton, Efros, Trevino, Birdie, any 2 of these guys to just step up and have representative stretches in September and into the postseason. And then you'll say, yeah, they really did have too many guys. Good job getting that international bonus money. Good job DFAing Dennis Santana and DFAing Tonkin. But if they can't get contributions from those guys, or if Weaver and Canely falter, then you're going to definitely be reading the freaking Pittsburgh Pirates box scores and watching Astros games and trying to figure out, should we have picked Ferguson over Tim Hill? Oh, did we pull the plug on Dennis Santana at the wrong time? Objectively, no, they didn't. They did not pull the plug on either of those guys at the wrong time. Neither needed to stick around. Ferguson should have been DFA'd in May based on his output. Santana was DFA'd 2 weeks late. But hopefully, if they can get 2 guys to step up in September, all will be forgiven. You'll never hear us mention it again. But if they can't, we're definitely going to talk about it. And we're definitely going to grouse about the fact that, oh, by the way, they forgot to get anybody who could cover the 9th inning of a 1-run game, whether it be Tanner Scott or somebody else entirely, or somebody more, a front office, a creatively minded front office can be a little bit smarter than me, get somebody that can handle those duties. But instead, the Yankees are going to roll with Clay Holmes, and it'll either be to their success or detriment. We shall see. More roster shuffles to come, probably another one before Thursday's podcast. We'll be right back here at 2:00 Eastern to talk about the series with the Nats. Again, biggest series of the year? No, they've done a good job of taking series ahead of it to make sure that there's not outsized pressure. But win tonight's game. If you don't win tonight's game, win tomorrow's game. Try to win the series.
And the next day.
1 foot in front of the other, win baseball games. That's the mode you're in right now. Don't get distracted. Yeah, you have a lead. Yeah, you've inched ahead of the Orioles. Yeah, they're playing the Dodgers. I don't care. Take care of your business. And if you happen to lose, win tomorrow. That's the best advice I can give the New York Yankees at this point in time with about a month to go before the playoffs. I'm Adam Weinrib. You can find me on Twitter at Adam Weinrib. It's not called X. It never will be. Thomas Carannante, where can the people find you?
At Tommy's_takes. Please, let's talk. Let's have some fun. Hit us both up at the official Yanks Go Yard Twitter account at Yanks Go Yard FS. YanksGoYard.com is the website. www. Plenty of content there. Thank you guys for reading. We got a lot of people checking out the site today. Little post-weekend boost. Still a lot of things going on. A lot of stuff to discuss. All in all, content. All in all, still a tad worried. Don't know what things hold for the next 6 weeks. And you see the Astros heating up, a little bit of a concern. You see the Yankees not being able to shore up their problems right now because the trade deadline's over. And we don't know if we're going to get out of injury reinforcements. Still a little concerned, but we're here to deliver you all the information that you need about this team. So please like and subscribe to the podcast on YouTube. Hit us up whenever you want to chat. Thank you for tuning in once again. Series against the Nationals, I guess. Here we go. Let's get it done. We'll talk to you again on Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern live right here.
See everybody right back here. Thank you for joining us.